All right, so the situation, of course, at Air Canada is that tentative deal is still just that. We've not had a full vote yet from the union. That's expected to continue to take a few more days. But the good news is, if you are one of those people who unfortunately had your flight canceled and it kind of threw you into a bit of a financial frenzy because you had to book a hotel to stay longer or rent a car, Air Canada now says it's aiming to have its full network, first of all, schedule on today. So flights are in fact going. And now they say they've updated their goodwill policy to cover reasonable additional accommodation and out-of-pocket expenses. So let's get some details. Christophe Hennebelle is Vice President of Corporate Communications at Air Canada and on the line. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, let me begin by asking what this means. So when you say, extending the goodwill policy, how would it work and what do you have to do as a customer?
Yep, absolutely. First, I'd like to say that we are very much aware of how much of a disruption that has been for our customers, and we deeply regret it. Indeed, we have an almost normal operation today with 99% of our flights operating. So we are almost back to normal and getting there. Now to your question. In fact, we've modified our usual policies in two ways. The first one that we announced 2 days ago was about transportation back to Canada. For people who were blocked abroad, so people who have had to buy a ticket on another carrier, another airline, we've agreed to refund those tickets on two conditions. First condition, that their flight was actually cancelled, so that they received an email from us telling them that their flight was cancelled. And secondly, that we told them that we did not have an alternative solution, an alternative option for them. So in those conditions, we will refund the transportation, right? Either by air or by land.
Okay.
That was the first part of the policy. Second part of the policy that was announced yesterday is for out-of-pocket expenses. So if, because of the disruption, you've had fees for hotels, for meals, for ground transportation to the airport, for instance, we will refund that as well.
What about your hotel stay if your flight was canceled?
Yes, the hotel as well.
So
the lodging, the meals,
okay.
and ground transportation.
The other question I have, and a couple of people brought this up, if someone had their flight canceled, was made aware that it was canceled, and booked another flight, what we found out was that, unfortunately for many people, that flight cost a lot more than it would have if they'd had their regular flight not canceled. So will you cover that extra cost as well?
Yes, on the condition that it's a reasonable fee, reasonable meaning that it's on par with the market conditions when that purchase was made. And on the condition as well that we did tell those customers that we didn't have a solution for them. Because the first thing we did was look for options for our customers. We rebooked customers ourselves, tens of thousands of customers on other airlines. Now, if we did tell the customer that we weren't able to find that solution and they did the rebooking themselves, then yes, absolutely.
Regardless of how much that might have cost. I mean, I heard a horror story of someone saying they had to fly home from Paris, for example, and that one-way ticket to get home after their Air Canada flight was canceled was well over $2,500.
Well, what we'll do is check that was the price that was in the market at that time. If that's in line with the prices that could be found on the market at that time, yes, we'll reimburse. Okay. If it's way more expensive, then we'll reimburse a reasonable price.
All right. The other thing before we run out of time that I want to clarify as well is this. So if you had to go ahead and book something on your own, right, and you're now going to give them that money, my understanding is you only get that money back, by the way, from Air Canada if you book directly with Air Canada and not through a third party. Is that correct?
You mean like a travel agency?
Yeah, travel agency.
No, that's not correct. You can be refunded even if you book through a travel agency, no problem.
And if you book through, I don't know, Air Miles or Travelocity or Expedia, what happens?
Yeah,
then?
No, all those are travel agencies. They're online travel agencies. That's exactly the same.
Okay, and for people hearing this who think, okay, this is good news, the airline will refund it, what is the best way to go about getting that refund back? Online, or how would you do it?
Online, absolutely online. Don't call our call center. We know that there's a lot of calls right now and it can take a long time. So please go to the website. There's a form for that. You submit your claim with all the details you have, all the tickets, all the proofs of what happened, and that's the best way for you to get a refund.
Last question I would ask you, what is not covered in this new policy?
Well, hard for me to say what's not covered. Really, what's covered is the alternative means of transport on the one hand, and on the other hand, the lodging, the meals, ground transportation, and telecommunication expenses if you have some, like you've had to place calls home, for instance. Those are the four things that will be refunded.
Which sounds to me kind of like everything. I can't imagine what else it would be. I'm only asking in case I left something out.
That's why I could not answer to your question, but yes, that's pretty much everything.
Fair enough. Mr. Hennebelle, appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. Have a nice day.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
So there you go. From Air Canada, it looks like they're pretty much covering everything, including the flight you had to rebook on your own on another carrier because Air Canada canceled your flight, regardless of how much that actually cost. So that's good news because we know people paid a lot more to get home than they originally planned to pay to take an Air Canada flight. So as I said, good news. And as you said, if you want to go ahead and begin the process, do it online. Don't call the call center.